The dimensional rift above Yunhai City flickered with an ominous purple hue as another temporal wave washed over the examination grounds.
Shinming tightened his grip on his dented iron shield while standing at the back of the anxious crowd of examinees.
His status screen had been stuck at C-Class Shield Guard for 3 long years without a single hint of improvement. Suddenly, a blinding flash of golden and ghostly blue light erupted directly inside his field of vision. A system notification chimed loudly in his ears to announce the successful awakening of an SSS rank passive skill. The skill was named Spirit Annihilation, and it promised to grant him permanent stacking attack power based on his total defensive values. A surge of icy mystical energy rushed through his veins and instantly eliminated all his accumulated physical fatigue. The loud voice of the chief examiner echoed over the loudspeaker to call up the next group for the physical defense trials. Shinming stepped out of the ranks and marched firmly toward the heavy titanium gates of Testing Chamber 4. Several high-ranked examinees from prestigious academies chuckled softly as they noticed his low-tier basic equipment. He completely ignored their taunts and stepped directly onto the red circular marker in the center of the testing room. The heavy titanium gates slid shut behind him with a resonant metallic thud that sealed him inside the room. An automated countdown timer began to tick down from 10 on the large overhead monitor screen. He raised his shield and planted his left foot firmly into the ground to prepare for the initial impact. Dozens of mechanical gun barrels emerged from secret panels within the reinforced walls and pointed directly at him. The turrets opened fire simultaneously and unleashed a relentless hail of high-velocity kinetic projectiles. Shinming stood perfectly still as the first wave of heavy metal slugs slammed violently against his shield. To his utter amazement, he did not feel even a single ounce of kinetic impact force passing through his arms. A series of green zero indicators floated rapidly above his head to confirm that he was taking absolutely no damage. The testing system automatically raised the difficulty parameter to the maximum level due to his lack of injury. Giant plasma cannons descended from the ceiling and began to charge up intense balls of searing white thermal energy. The examiners watching from behind the safety glass leaned forward in complete shock at the rapid escalation. Shinming merely smiled as a beautiful translucent aura of ghostly blue flames erupted from his body. The plasma cannons fired simultaneously and unleashed 4 massive beams of pure destructive thermal energy right at him. The intense thermal beams simply dissolved into thin air the very moment they touched the ghostly blue fire of his aura. The main computer system buzzed loudly before displaying a perfect score of 0 damage taken over the entire trial duration. The heavy titanium gates slid open once more to reveal the stunned faces of the entire crowd of spectators. He didn't pause for their praise and walked straight over to the physical attack testing apparatus across the field. The physical attack test utilized a giant obsidian boulder enchanted to absorb and measure raw kinetic power. A wealthy A-class warrior who had just scored a high mark sneered openly at Shinming's arrival. Shinming completely ignored the youth and stood directly in front of the massive dark monolithic stone. Thanks to Spirit Annihilation, his continuous perfect defense had already stacked his physical attack power by 10,000%. He drew back his iron shield like a heavy battering ram as the ghostly blue flames condensed into a solid sphere of light. With a thunderous roar that shook the stadium foundations, he slammed his shield violently into the center of the stone. The enchanted obsidian boulder shattered into a million tiny fragments with an incredibly loud explosive detonation. The shockwave tore across the entire field and forced the nearby students to shield their faces from the flying debris. The digital scoring system flickered erratically before completely short-circuiting from the sheer magnitude of the impact value. A giant golden text notice materialized in the sky above the arena to declare an unprecedented new all-time city record. Shinming lowered his shield and calmly stepped out of the ruined dust cloud while brushing a few stray pebbles off his shoulder. Up in the VIP viewing lounge, a beautiful young woman with long, icy blue hair watched his every move with intense fascination. She was Qin Shiwa, the city's top-ranked SS-class elementalist, and she had just found the final missing piece for her elite squad. As Shinming prepared to leave the arena grounds, a sudden high-intensity crimson warning alert flashed across his personal system interface. The text warned him that an anomalous high-level entity had noticed his massive energy spike and was currently tracking his coordinates. The ominous system warning glowed crimson in the air as Shinming stared at the notification, detailing a tracking anomaly. He closed the interface quickly, feeling the residual heavy energy of the unseen entity slowly fade from the room. Footsteps echoed down the metallic hallway outside, drawing his attention away from the lingering digital threat. The automatic door slid open smoothly to reveal a striking woman clad in elegant, rune-embroidered mage robes. She possessed long, flowing silver hair that shimmered with faint crimson embers, marking her status as a top-tier elementalist. Qin Shiwa introduced herself with a polite nod, her reputation as an SS rank elite preceding her across Yunhai City. She explained that she had witnessed his record-breaking performance during the defense trials and recognized his immense potential. Her specialized squad required a frontline tank capable of withstanding extreme, non-standard damage spikes in upcoming high-tier dungeons. Shinming crossed his arms, evaluating her request while carefully concealing the nature of his newly awakened SS rank skill. To prove her sincerity, Qin Shiwa opened a secure spatial inventory container that projected a brilliant purple glow. Inside rested an epic tier tower shield crafted from deep black obsidian alloy and engraved with protective dragon runes. She offered this legendary item as an immediate signing bonus, alongside a guaranteed equal split of all dungeon spoils. Realizing that this premium equipment would instantly amplify his defensive capabilities, Shinming accepted the offer with a firm handshake. Within an hour, they arrived at the staging ground outside the city, where the rest of the elite squad waited. The team consisted of highly seasoned hunters who sized up the low-ranked C-class shield guard with heavy skepticism. Qin Shiwa silenced their murmurs with a single sharp look, establishing her absolute authority as the raid leader. Their destination was a newly formed fusion dungeon hidden deep within the treacherous boundaries of the Beast Forest. A fusion dungeon occurred when two-dimensional rifts overlapped, creating unpredictable environments and highly aggressive mutant monsters. The armored transport ground to a halt before the massive shimmering barrier of the dungeon entrance. The surrounding woods were eerie and silent, devoid of regular wildlife due to the overwhelming pressure leaking from the rift. Shinming strapped the heavy obsidian shield onto his left arm, feeling its perfect balance and immense sturdiness. The system interface flashed in his vision, confirming that the new equipment had successfully integrated with his base defensive stats. With a collective nod, the squad stepped through the dimensional veil, completely disappearing from the mortal realm. They materialized inside a colossal subterranean cavern filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with unstable mana. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and sulfur, indicating a highly hostile ecological zone. Qin Shiwa ordered the squad into a standard vanguard formation, placing Shinming at the absolute front of the line. A low, rumbling vibration shook the cavern floor, sending loose pebbles bouncing across the uneven stones. From the dark recesses of the tunnels ahead, dozens of pairs of glowing crimson eyes rapidly materialized. A pack of elite crystal-spined wolves leaped into the light, their bodies encased in razor-sharp obsidian armor. The monsters charged with terrifying speed, their claws scraping loudly against the hard cavern floor. Shinming slammed his new tower shield into the ground, bracing his weight to meet the oncoming impact head-on. The lead wolf collided with the shield in a massive explosion of sparks, but Shinming did not budge a single inch. Instantly, his SS rank passive skill activated, causing a brilliant aura of ghostly translucent blue flames to ignite around his body. The elite squad members gaped in absolute shock as a series of system notifications flashed 0 damage above Shinming's head. The ghostly blue flames began to crawl onto the attacking wolf, rapidly burning away its defense stats through spirit annihilation. Seizing the perfect opening, Qin Shiwa chanted a high-tier incantation, her staff gathering immense heat. A torrent of localized meteors rained down upon the weakened pack, obliterating the front line of monsters completely. The squad members cheered as they witnessed the flawless synergy between Shinming's absolute defense and their leader's devastating magical offense. Shinming lowered his shield slightly, noting that his permanent damage buff counter had already begun to stack from the blocked hits. However, before the team could celebrate their quick victory, the entire cavern began to warp and distort violently around them. The system interface flashed a catastrophic warning across everyone's vision, indicating that a hidden spatial anomaly had just locked the exit portal. Crimson warning screens flashed violently before the squad's eyes as the spatial anomaly completely sealed off the exit portal. Qin Shiwa gripped her elemental staff tightly as the ground beneath them began to vibrate with terrifying force. Distant roars echoed from the deep shadows of the cavern, signaling the arrival of an immense horde. Shinming quietly stepped to the front of the formation, his heavy boots crushing the loose pebbles below. He planted his massive tower shield directly into the dirt, creating a small shockwave that stabilized the immediate area. The backline support mages screamed in terror as the overwhelming wave of monsters closed the distance in seconds. Qin Shiwa unleashed a barrage of fireballs to slow them down, but the spell barely scratched their elite armor. Shinming remained absolutely motionless behind his shield as the first monstrous beast slammed directly into him. A massive metallic clang echoed through the cavern, but Shinming's health bar did not drop by even a single point. Instantly, a bright blue system notification materialized, confirming the activation of his passive skill. Eerie blue flames suddenly erupted from the edges of his shield, burning with a ghostly, cold light. Another beast lunged at his throat, only to be instantly vaporized into ash upon touching the blue aura. A floating system counter above his head flickered rapidly, displaying the number of stacked defense buffs. Qin Shiwa watched in absolute speechlessness as the entire frontline horde began to break themselves against his defense. With every single strike he blocked, Shinming's permanent attack power continued to climb exponentially. Suddenly, the entire cavern floor split open as a massive, towering entity emerged from the depths. This was the hidden dungeon boss, a level 50 calamity basilisk possessing devastating physical attributes. The squad members trembled as the boss's crushing pressure descended heavily upon their shoulders. Shinming, however, stood perfectly straight, his eyes locked onto the massive creature without a hint of fear. The calamity basilisk swung its massive, spiked tail directly towards Shinming's position with breaking speed. Shinming braced himself, raising his shield to meet the colossal impact head-on. The impact caused a massive shockwave that shattered the surrounding stone pillars into dust. When the dust cleared, Shinming had not moved an inch, and his defensive stacks had reached their absolute maximum limit. He quietly adjusted his grip on the shield handle, ready to unleash the stored energy.
My turn,
He whispered softly as the ghostly blue flames suddenly turned into an absolute inferno. He lunged forward with explosive speed, leaving a trail of blue fire across the cavern floor. The basilisk hissed in sudden panic, sensing an existential threat from this single human. Shinming slammed his shield directly into the monster's chest with the force of a falling meteor. The immense physical defense of the level 50 boss was instantly shattered like brittle glass. The ghostly blue flames poured into the cracks, burning the creature's life force from the inside out. A series of massive golden system notifications rained down, detailing the absolute annihilation of the boss. The giant body of the calamity basilisk dissolved into thousands of harmless blue motes of light. Qin Shiwa slowly walked forward, her eyes wide with a mixture of absolute awe and terror.
You aren't just a shield guard,
She murmured softly, recognizing his world-changing potential. Shinming merely picked up the dropped rare loot from the floor, stowing it into his inventory with a calm nod. Suddenly, the sealed spatial portal didn't open. Instead, it began to twist into a dark vortex. A heavy administrative communication voice echoed directly through the dungeon system interface. The voice belonged to the city lord of Yunhai City, speaking with absolute gravity and panic. He revealed that the fusion dungeon had forcefully connected to the legendary century-old abyss interior. Shinming, you must clear the absolute core of this abyss immediately, or our entire city will face complete destruction within the hour. The city lord's desperate words echoed through the massive underground chamber as the spatial rift pulsed violently. Shinming tightened his grip on his massive shield, looking directly into the swirling vortex of the spatial energy tide. Qin Shiwa stepped forward, her hands glowing with elemental frost as she observed the erratic fluctuations of the dungeon entrance. This particular abyss had remained completely undefeated for over a century, consuming dozens of elite vanguard squads before them. Shinming smiled faintly as his system interface blinked, displaying his maxed-out defense statistics and the active Spirit Annihilation passive. Without a single moment of hesitation, the Shield Guardian took his first definitive step into the shimmering tier of reality. The entire squad followed behind him, instantly finding themselves within a surreal landscape of floating obsidian islands and jagged crystalline pillars. High above the floating islands, a colossal creature materialized from the spatial shadows, its body woven from pure spatial distortion. The Abyss Boss roared, sending out a massive shockwave of pure force that instantly shattered the surrounding floating structures. Shinming slammed his heavy tower shield into the floating ground, activating his ultimate defensive stance instantly. The destructive spatial shockwave crashed directly against Shinming's shield, yet his health bar remained perfectly full without dropping a single point. Qin Shiwa gasped in sheer amazement as she watched the incoming catastrophic attack completely dissipate against his absolute defense. Seizing the perfect opening, Shinming triggered his core passive ability, causing ghostly blue flames to erupt violently from his armor. The Spirit Annihilation skill began to convert every single scrap of his blocked damage into permanent, stacking offensive power. The spatial behemoth manifested thousands of localized void rifts, raining down lethal projectiles directly onto the squad. Shinming stepped out in front of the entire party, intentionally taking every single hit to stack his power even faster. With every hit absorbed, his system notifications flashed rapidly, detailing the monstrous growth of his attack attributes.
Jiwa, focus on freezing its core joints while I build up the final stack.
Shinming barked over the roaring winds. Qin Shiwa nodded fiercely, channeling her peak SS rank elemental magic to unleash a massive blizzard across the battlefield. The colossal spatial beast let out a strained cry as dense layers of magical ice locked its massive limbs in place. At that exact moment, Shinming's Spirit Annihilation reached its maximum possible capacity, turning him into a literal sun of blue fire. He pulled back his shield, which had now transformed into a devastating weapon overflowing with unimaginable kinetic force. With a thunderous roar, Shinming launched himself forward, crossing the massive distance in the blink of an eye. He delivered a catastrophic shield bash directly into the central core of the immobilized spatial behemoth. The impact was so absolute that it instantly shattered the creature's outer carapace, sending shockwaves throughout the entire layer. The century-old Lord of the Abyss let out one final, deafening screech before exploding into a million shimmering particles of light. A massive golden system notification appeared in the air, declaring the absolute completion and total conquest of the dungeon. With the core destroyed, the unstable spatial energy tide instantly stabilized, collapsing the dangerous rifts safely. Shinming descended gently back onto the stone platform, his ghostly blue flames slowly receding into his armor. Qin Shiwa and the rest of the squad rushed forward, their faces lit up with pure exhilaration and disbelief. The city lord stood at the entrance, staring blankly at the intact chamber before falling to his knees out of sheer gratitude. "You have done the impossible, Shield Guardian Shinming. You have saved Yunhai City from absolute ruin," the leader whispered. Shinming merely nodded, knowing that this monumental victory was only the true beginning of his ultimate legend. News of the miraculous clear spread across Yunhai City like wildfire, turning the once mocked C-class guard into a national hero overnight. Massive holographic screens across every skyscraper continuously replayed the footage of his unstoppable blue flames. Back at the guild headquarters, Shinming sat quietly by the window, enjoying a peaceful moment of well-deserved rest. Qin Shiwa walked into the room, placing a warm beverage on his table before sitting down directly across from him.
"So, where are we taking our unbeatable squad next, Captain?"
She asked with a playful sparkle in her eyes. Shinming looked down at his shield, which now rested peacefully against the wall, glowing with a faint, permanent blue ember. With infinite health and unyielding defense, he knew there was absolutely no challenge in this world they could not conquer together.